Hey, we're back. All right. We are we. Where did I get this we stuff? All right, I'm back. Professor Newfie here, and you're there. All right, we're gonna do another reaction video. This time we're gonna do on, I guess we would call super realism. Um, I work doing sets for schools, plays, theater. And in a lot of these cases, we have to make rock look like chiseled rock or stone or brick or gnarled wood. And it's all on either foam, uh, cardboard, just Luan. But I have to make it look like metal, or I have to make it look like polished wood, or whatever the case might be. Um, for years, artists have used the airbrush. Um, and how do I say this without being condescending? It really isn't. But any artist who works with airbrush, well, first let me start off. There are airbrush artists that are phenomenal, and they can draw or illustrate using nothing but the airbrush. In Hollywood, they obviously don't use airbrushes for the large murals that are painted up on the walls. But on cars, using the airbrush, you have to have a good knowledge of it. However, working on sets or even on murals that I do, the smaller ones, I usually paint the work first and then come back on the airbrush, and then it adds that soft look to it. It gives it that realistic look. This artist, um, Marcello, Marcello, uh, Bar- Bargani. I'm not even gonna bother because I'm gonna chew his name up. Anyway, this artist here does a combination of working in realism by using the airbrush and using other media. Now, with that being said, there are a lot of artists, professional, who would say, why work photorealistically when you have a photograph? Now, I understand photorealism before the camera became affordable to use was something very big. Um, I used to be of the school that thought of like, why paint super photorealistic? There is a need for it, and a good case for my argument is this: there is an artist by the name of Ken Marschall. Now, a super realistic artist would be great to depict what other worlds look like, what history would look like that we weren't there. And Ken Marschall grew into prominence by illustrations of the Titanic. He did these super realistic paintings of the Titanic 2 miles underwater. He took hundreds of thousands of photographs that were put together, and he meticulously made what the Titanic looks like 2 miles under. To give you an idea how dark it is at that depth, put yourself in a pitch black room and now cover your eyes. That's what it looks like 2 miles underwater. There's no light, there isn't anything. It is black as pitch. Now, in this case, being able to paint photorealistically is something that artists need to do. But even despite that, there are painters. Went to school with a fellow by the name of George Lockwood. Very quiet, non-assuming kind of guy. He was a couple of grades ahead of me, and he is a phenomenal photorealistic artist. Impressed with his work, amazing. Um, I, for myself, would probably say, he takes photographs and then reproduces them into paintings. For me, I would say what would be neat is if he did that and then added something to it that wasn't in the painting, or something that didn't fit in that painting. But again, that's just me. There are people who love that kind of stuff, and obviously it's selling because he's being a very successful artist monetarily. He is really doing very well, and I think that's great in what he's doing. And I don't know, maybe someday I'll get him on our podcast here and be able to talk to him. So this artist here, we're going to get started on. I'm going to show you how he handles working with the airbrush and working with other mediums. Now he moves pretty fast, so I'm going to stop it every so often just to show what he does. And here we go. Let's take a look at what he's got. Now notice he first starts off. This is a cracked egg. And he's first starting off his base. He hasn't even used the airbrush yet. He's starting off his base by using, I'm going to say, is either an acrylic or an egg tempera, or no pun intended here. Most likely an acrylic. Well, can't tell. He might be using a watercolor even. And the reason I'm saying that is because it's on paper, but if it was watercolor, he would have had it taped down. Could be acrylic, maybe on canvas. But he started off with a looked like a canvas paper, but he's starting off with his base. All right, let's move on. Now there, as you can see, he's now using his airbrush to create that soft look. But what he has on top of there is there's that clear film. It's called a frisket paper. And it's designed to be able to lay down. You actually cut it out with your X-Acto knife and peel off the areas that you're going to airbrush, and it leaves a sharp edge on there. Well, you'll see how he peels this off. Here we go. And you see how it's peeled off there. And now he's able to airbrush some shadows over that. He's probably come out now and he's added another layer of white over that to create the shadows there that are casted off from the eggshells. All right, let's move on. Here's an example. Right before that, he was using a tech pen, or a technical pen, looked like probably a double aught, and creating a sharp edge around the yolk, not the yolk, but the white of the egg, and creating that shiny, almost luminescent feel. Now he's coming back here with the color pencil, and he's pulling that up to create the texture on the eggshell. All right, let's move on. Aries got another one, but he was also using a marker, using some markers, and you can see he's using his finger as well to blend some of those colors in. So you can see he's only using a small percentage of the airbrush, but the rest is also using other media. And already look at the shell. The shell is looking pretty realistic already as it is. All right, let's move on. Ooh. Nicely done. There we go. I was trying to catch the marker. There's another pencil there. He's using it. Looks like it's a technical pen. It could be a, what is that? I'm going to presume it is a pen, technical pen. But look at the razor sharp edges he's got on that eggshell. And the reason he's moved this up is because he probably doesn't want to bore you with all the slow process in which he's going through. Remember, this isn't done really fast. This has taken some time to do. He's only sped this up so that the viewer doesn't get bored with every little bit of what he's done. For myself, I wouldn't mind having him take his time to show all that stuff. But now look at the yolk. The yolk isn't fully rendered yet, but you can see how well the shells look. Right now that yolk looks flat, but let's watch and see how he handles it. There's going to be a part coming up where he adds some little bubbles on the white of the egg, and I'm going to stop it there to show you these. The details are the things that make things look realistic. Let's just move on. I'll show you. right there, right below the bottom part of the shell. You'll see a little dot there. All right, I'm going to use an analogy real quick here. Um, Sports. I use a lot of analogies in sports. Um, I myself was a swimmer in high school. I'm swimming again. I'm swimming in masters in my age group. Here's the thing: when an athlete goes out for a sport, starts off, you will improve by leaps and bounds, huge leaps and bounds. Times will drop by seconds, yada yada yada. Weightlifting, you start moving in large chunks. As you get further into the elite level, national level, Olympic level, the times that it takes to improve are only tenths of a second. The weight that you can push are only ounces that separate first and second place. Okay, where am I going with this? Same thing in art. You generally make a broad drawing like he did here, but the small details are the ones that make this really come out and work. So you really have to pay attention to those details, and yet at the same time make it look effortless. Just look at this. It's just he's working completely effortless on this, and it's wonderfully rendered, beautifully done. All right, let's move on. Now, real quick, I'm going to stop again. The yolk that is in the lower left side, as we're facing where the two eggshells are, you can see the shininess, and yet there's a cast shadow where the yolk is actually like, here is the surface, and the yolk comes out and bends this way. There is a highlight at the top of it, but underneath he's created that shadow. You can also see on the other side of the yolk, it's created some ripples, and then of course the bubbles that are creating that illusion of depth, and that it's wet. Another thing too is that if you look at the yolk, we see the yolk as being white. It's not. It's beige. It's not white. Look at the paper. That's white, but versus the yolk itself is a yellow tone. So there's really no straight white. He's leaving that on the background of the paper. Okay, here we go. Move on. Right there. Stop. Look at the top part of the yolk. See the bubbles he's created up there? Those are the small details that are going to start to make this look even more realistic. He hasn't gotten to the yolk yet. Watch the magic he does on this yolk. It's going to be, oh, delicious. Look at that, huh? And he even brought in a little bit of airbrush, but now he's using the pencil to create that yolk, and you can see it starting to pull up. It's starting to give that round, soft look, like you could almost move that yolk around. All right, there we go, there we go. Let's move on. Look at that, huh? Yeah. And that's how it's done. Look at that, huh? All right, so, this is something that doesn't happen overnight. He has obviously been studying his skill set. We're going to get into my rollerbots that I have. We'll get into how to make things chrome. If you go to my cartoon, it's called A Marriage, making in 18 years in the making. And it's a story about my wife and I and how we met, but it's depicted by the rollerbots, AJ3 and AJ7. You'll see how I made them look very polished chrome, and they're reflected. He has done this here using, the egg has a film inside, and you can see the shininess in there, and yet the outside texture is dull and flat, but yet there's a contour to it. he has an understanding of texture and light and shadow, and this is years of understanding and years of working in his craft. He's done a phenomenal job. Where can you go and see his stuff? Well, his name is in the upper right hand corner. I'm sure you can find him there. And I'm sure he has more things that he can look at. But those of you who are aiming for photorealism, if that's where you want to go, great. But remember, there is lots of art that isn't photorealistic. That's actually wonderfully rendered. Monet, Cezanne, um, Van Gogh. You look at all of these artists that are impressionists, and they are painters that have created the arts where the paint itself, the brushstrokes, just draw you in. And there's a lot to be said about photorealism. I'm not saying that there isn't anything said about that. That's great. But there are times, I'm telling you, I just love getting in front of the canvas and just relaxing and just being loose. Um, I know this is a contradiction in terms, but art has a lot of contradictions. The more relaxed and the more loose you can paint, as you become more proficient in your painting, you inevitably get tighter. I know. It's like, trust me. Because sometimes I find myself getting really tight when I start off very loose, and I just have to stop. We're going to get into painting later on down the road. But anyway, this is wanted to show you a little bit about how he uses multimedia. This is a mixed media, airbrush, color pencil, pen and ink, wet media, could be watercolor, acrylic. And look at this piece. It's wonderfully rendered, wonderfully rendered. All right. Hey, that's going to take care of this reaction video and how I really like his stuff. Listen, if you like what you see, hit the like button, subscribe. This is Professor Jacinto. I'm going to have some more reaction videos out there for you to take a look at and to see. And again, these are to inspire you. They are to get you motivated. I want to let you know this. There is so much work out there in the arts. Okay? Let's say I was the only artist in this whole world. You're right. And let's just say that I could do every single media and every single style there was. There would be no way I could alone do all this work. So here's what I'm saying. With all the artists in the world, there is so much work out there. There really, really is. And you can be part of that. But here's the thing. You have to have determination, discipline, and focus. And really, I have had people ask me, what's my motivation? I go, there is no motivation. Motivation is like that rainbow. Inspiration can leave you like that. There are times I don't feel like painting, but I have to get it done or I have to work. If you can get through that, you are going to be successful. All right? Okay, so let's move on, and I will see you again in our next reaction video. And once again, this is Professor Jacinto telling you, may the Lord be with you always. Be careful out there, and we will see you on the next reaction video. And once again, Thursday, 3:30, have our podcast? No, what's that called? Not a podcast. I have my wife back. My videos. It's not reaction video. My videos every Thursday. And thank you, my instruction videos. I'm an old school man. All right. You take care. We'll see you soon. Bye now.